Hello, friends. This is going to be our number 10 episode of season 2 of Aides to Scouting. We had a guest tonight, but he had to call in sick. So, what we're going to do tonight is we're going to just talk about various subjects that we think will be interesting to those of you who've tuned in, either going to be watching us live on YouTube or hearing us on Spotify. Now, I thought what we might do, Elliott is going to
Mhm.
try to, he's going to try to find uh, a link on my website. My website is walkerchandler.com. And on it, there's a couple of presentations, one of which was done by Lord Baden-Powell, which, as you know, he's still alive, and he tells scouts all over the world. He says, "Well, I'm still alive, and I'll stay alive so long as there are scouts." And so uh, he thanks not only the scouts but also the adult leaders, because scouting can't exist without adults. All right, now we're gonna we're gonna just talk a little bit, but about various subjects while Elliott hunts for that Baden Powell presentation. Hey, Elliott's back. Okay.
Hey there. Hey,
All right.
so I think I have found something, but
Okay.
let me I don't believe it's you as Baden Powell, it's your poetry presentation
Oh, well,
is
they
what
can.
I could find.
Well, let's do this rather than having the poetry presentation,
Mhm.
because it's not a. Let's just refer people to the website.
Okay.
And by the way, you're sounding kind of loud, and I don't know if that balance there is right, but
Sorry.
it's up to you. I mean, son. I mean, now if you'll zoom back in on me, there we go. Oh, I'm so beautiful. I'll notice, number one, that this is St. Patrick's Day of 2026, and I'm wearing my green shirt. And my green shirt is really good. It shows the evolution of man, starting off on the one side as an ape, and then as it goes across, the man becomes more of a hominoid, and then he's upright, and then he's a caveman with a thing, and then he's a modern man. But look what he ends up being, a bagpiper. So, so the evolution of man leads to bagpiping.
You
And
know,
go ahead.
our
Go ahead,
I was
Elliot.
gonna say our introduction song and our outro song is all bagpiping that I got to record at the Burns Club meeting. At the very first time that you invited me to come along to the Burns Club, we had a small contingent of the Atlanta Pipers band come through and give a presentation, and I thought that was probably one of the more interesting things I've seen.
You know, it's very interesting. Anytime that musicians work together. Now, Elliot's, you're still a little loud there, I think, Elliot.
Sorry, it'll
That's
balance
all right.
out. Maybe I'm loud to you.
Oh, okay, maybe so. But I was going to say Elliot is a musician, and he's a guitar player, and he sings, and I'm a little bit of a musician. I play a bagpipe and I play an accordion, and uh, and so that's something that we can talk about it in terms of scouting. I think scouting, when it's done properly, there's music there. There's certainly singing, and and I think it's very important for all scout leaders, whether it's Cub Scout level or scouts or explorers or rovers or whatever, to make sure there's plenty of singing. Singing has a way of uniting people when they sing as a group. That's why it's done in churches or done at sporting events. People like to sing even if they're not really good at it. But that said, a lot of people actually have much better singing voices than they think they have. My test on that is to ask a person who says he has not a good singing voice, how do you sound when you're at home alone in the shower? Oh, well, then I sound pretty good. Well, they probably sound pretty good every other time if they go ahead and let their heart come out and sing. I think a lot of us are shy when we're in a group situation, and some of us ought to be shy. At any rate, I just thought we'd talk about various subjects tonight, and I think that's one of them. Uh, do look at my website if you get a chance, and then we'll try to make sure that the Baden Powell presentation is up there so that you can see Baden Powell talking to the Burns Club of Atlanta. And that's the club that Elliott just mentioned, the Burns Club. There are Burns clubs all over the world that celebrate and preserve the writings of Robert Burns, the Scottish poet. He's also called the Bard. And so most of the members of the club and all over the world will have all kinds of Burns books. And as you all probably know, one of his most famous poems is a song. It's Old Lang Syne. And I won't try to sing it right now, but look it up. You'll enjoy it. And also, it's done in the.
I'll get my guitar and play it.
Oh, that'd be fine. Get your guitar and play it.
All
And
right.
and so look up the words, and it's written in what's called Lowland Scots. And so when we say Auld Lang Syne, that means basically the good old days. And it's a great song to be singing at scout events. I was talking to someone the other day and mentioned the what's called a round, and that used to be rounds were sung around campfires quite a bit. One of them is it's the simple one that most people know. Hang on, Elliott, is row, row, row your boat. And so one group starts singing row, row, row your boat. And then the second group starts singing the same row, row, row. And so it all blends and they sing it maybe 3 or 4 times. Well, one of the great rounds that I learned was at Gilwell Park outside of London. And it was where BP lived there in England. And it's make new friends, keep the old. One is silver and the other gold. And that makes a beautiful round for your scouts to sing. Make new friends, keep the old. One is silver and the other gold. All right, now, Elliott, I believe you were going to play Old Lang Syne. At least, are you going to sing it too while you go?
Yeah, sure. Why not? Why not?
Please.
All right, let me see. Let's see. I'm gonna take off one of these headphone ears so I can stay in key.
Yep.
Should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind? Should old acquaintance be forgot and old lang syne? For old lang syne, my Joe, for old lang syne, we'll take a cup of kindness yet for old lang syne.
Isn't that great? Isn't that great, folks? It's about four verses in that, and I'm sure you'll like to look it up. One of them is it talks about how when we were children, we played in the stream. We paddled in the burn from morning sun till dine. But since then, seas between us have roared since old Lang Syne. So anyway, yeah, so enjoy that. And that brings up a point about having, when you have ceremonies and you have campfires, ended on a great song like that that warms people's hearts and makes them feel the what's the word, pungency of the moment,
Yeah.
And so that they can take it with them. I remember talking to some folks about Cub Scout meetings where parents have come there and they're not really sure if they want their kids to be in this group, and then as the evening progresses and they see all the things that go on during the meeting, and then at the end of it, the 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 whole assemblage sings something like America the Beautiful, or God Save the King if you're in England, or whatever. And so it becomes that binding thing that your scouts and their parents will all remember. And so don't ever underestimate the power of music and to bring out people's emotions.
All right, I'm going to switch off the presentation and turn on the conversation for a second.
Okay.
You visited Tussahaw District's Camporee as Baden Powell this past weekend.
Yes.
And I will say everybody was very excited to have you there, portraying our founder, which was really fun. But to talk about the singing and everything, for the first time in probably 12 years or so, I got in front of the whole crowd and I sang a song. I did a repeat after me song called Fred the Moose. Have you ever heard of Fred the Moose?
No, I haven't, but
It's
please.
about this dastardly moose who likes to drink his juice in bed and then he spills it all over himself and he gets all sticky. That's the gist of the song. But I had a really good time singing that at our closing campfire that we had on Sunday. And I'll also add, I am, you know how the scouts each have their own patrols and they cook with their own patrols and they clean when they have their own duty roster and everything. Well, in our troop, we have the adult patrol, which they elected me as the adult patrol leader this past weekend. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll take a bow here for that. And I'm also the cook because I like to cook on campouts. And I entered into the Scoutmasters cook-off and I took home the award for the best entree for the Scoutmaster cook-off with a turkey meatball sub.
Oh, that's great. That brings up a point.
Yeah.
We've talked about this before, which is part of scouting and like an Army scout is to be able to cook out in the woods. And I say to a lot of folks, if you can't cook at home, don't hope to be able to cook in the woods. And so parents should help their children learn how to cook at home because that's important. And all these life skills that scouting helps children learn are so important, and most of them are not being taught in the schools these days. I remember when I was young, there was a home economics, and back in the 30s and 20s, even the boys took home economics because it was just important. How does a family eat properly? They eat properly by cooking at home, and that's an important thing. Before we get off of music, I wanted to say that I recently went down to South Georgia to see my oldest cousin and my granddaughter, who's been taking singing lessons. My cousin was in a bed and had broken her leg, and she's in her 90s, and so that's always a bad prognosis. But my granddaughter sang and sang beautifully, quiet songs, Christian songs, and so it was very touching. And Gloria, my cousin, really enjoyed it and appreciated it, as did I and my granddaughter's father. And it so happened that just yesterday she passed away, and so I'm so glad that we had that opportunity and that music was essentially part of saying farewell.
The
And
closing campfire.
yes, and in piping we say that piping is for dancing, it's for marches, it's for the attacks, and it's also to console the grieving. And so it's just something that I hope that all scouts will think about that and work that into their life so that they play a musical instrument, they sing, they do the kinds, and they understand all the various possibilities that lie in music so it can be a woven into what they do.
It's astonishing how many people don't play an instrument. I find being a musician, you tend to ask people, "Hey, have you ever played guitar, or do you ever play drums, or did you play the trumpet when you were in high school, or anything like that?" It's the answer is more often than not no, and it's kind of surprising because when you're a musician like yourself and like I am, it's almost strange to think you've never tried it before. You've never you never just hit the keys on a piano for 20 minutes.
Yeah, or for that matter, back when back in the Army days, they used bugles
Oh
because
boy.
you could hear the bugle different over the sound of the gunfire, the screams and the yells and all that. And
Yeah.
and all the troops would learn the various bugle calls. So in scouting, we have, of course, bugling merit badge, and we have bugles.
Oh yes.
That's me playing the bugle there for those that are listening on Spotify. And it's no, I'm out of practice now.
When Melody and I visited your farm the last time,
Yes.
I
Yep.
totally played your bugle that was in the garage downstairs.
Yes.
Yep.
There's so much. A bugle's fun, but it takes your lips
Oh
have to
yeah.
build up some strength before you can do that. I was in church the other day at the local Lutheran church, which has a great scout troop, by the way.
Great.
But there was a man playing a flugelhorn, and
Wow.
it was a good quality instrument, and he was skillful, it was so beautiful.
How
Uh,
cool.
Now, and I think that uh, we that's another thing we need to try to encourage scouts to
Mhm.
take up bugling, some brass instruments, so
Yeah.
that because they sound so good outdoors, and that's where we are. We're an outdoor group.
One of our district troops, uh 2020, they have a thing about going to each campsite and saying, "Good evening," whatever troop it is that they're saying good evening to, and they'll go to each campsite, even if it's right next door, and they'll do that. And I think that's one of the funnier things that we've been doing recently. And it makes me think, well, they do that in the morning too to wake others up, which is a great practice. It gets builds enthusiasm and character and camaraderie for everybody yelling at the same time. But it would be super cool if all of them played the bugle at the same time.
Oh
Can
yeah.
you imagine a choir of reveille? That
Well,
would be incredible.
that's right. And then, of course, playing the bugle when they're raising or lowering the flag.
Yes.
At whatever nation you're in, by the way, folks,
Right.
we're not just selling Americanism here. But it when I was at the World Jamboree in 2019 up in West Virginia, we we sang "God Save the King" as we out on what we call Brown Sea Island. I'm sure all of your, not all, but most of your listeners know that Brown Sea Island was where the first um, experimental scout um, camp out went under Baden Powell's direction. And so, of course, they had a British flag and they raised it on a flagpole and they camped out in tents. So up at the Americans have a thing called a Brown Sea Island replica island in the middle of a big lake, and so on it they would raise the British flag and sing "God Save the King," and so we did that twice a day, and
Wow.
it went across quite well.
That's cool.
Yep.
Well, do you want to talk about what we're gonna be up to next for Aids to Scouting?
Well, we're gonna keep doing what we're doing, but what I'm hoping we're gonna do is get some more of the junior leader type people, the 16 and 17-year-old scouts who are still right there in the hands-on stages of their lives when they are uh, maybe they don't know as much about leadership skills as perhaps we do. But I have often noticed that uh, the younger scout or younger assistant scoutmaster or something often is so much closer to what the kids are thinking, feeling, and wanting.
Mhm.
That's one of the great things about the system that scouts have of having a den chief, where you have like a 12-year-old boy goes and helps out a Cub Scout den,
Mhm.
and so in other words, there's a scout with each den within
Mhm.
a pack. A pack might have, for those of you who don't know it, a pack might have 8 dens of 7 to 8 boys in each den,
Mhm.
and so each den hopefully can get a local scout, or maybe a scout from their same parent unit, to come and help run the games and things like that.
Mhm.
And I think that it's good for both the Cubs and for the Scout. Um, and again, the scouts only say 4 years, 3 years older than the Cubs. So
Hmm.
he or she knows much more where their minds are at, as the way
Hmm.
we say it in modern life.
Right. Right. Well, I ran a breakout session at our district roundtable this earlier this month, and that was one of the topics that I was directing for some of these new parents and some of the scoutmasters that we had. It was let's really try to focus on getting den chiefs involved in the packs, and that way, especially at crossover time when you have the arrow of light, or what used to be called the Weebelows 2 is now called the arrow of light. When they cross over into a troop, they will have had that den chief, that little bit older, cool kid who's kind of expecting them to be there, which is just one more reason to stay, to stay in the scout program after crossover, because that culture shock that goes from the pack to the troop, and the differences between Cub Scouting and the scouting program can be a bit of a shock to some of the 11-year-olds when they first join. You agree with that?
Well, I wouldn't exactly call it a shock, but
Well, it's well when
it's just different. It's one
yeah.
thing that's different is that they um they find themselves out from under parental control and
Yes.
guidance, and
Hmm.
so they've entered a world where it's other scouts are there. Hopefully, are the ones that are guiding them. Oh, that's one of the things I think all adult leaders need to constantly remind themselves, and we've talked about this on Aids to Scouting, is
Hmm.
adult leaders need to step back and
Hmm.
let the boys and girls run the show.
Hmm.
Even the Cub Scouts have, of course, they'll have a den leader and an
Hmm.
assistant den leader, and how else are people going to learn leadership skills if they're not leading? It's just
Right.
like the cooking skills. You've got to cook.
Yeah.
Or life saving or first aid or whatever it is. You have to get that hands on business. By the way, I was listening to our earlier podcast today. I was listening to it on Spotify or one of those things, and it was our number. It was season 2, number 6, where we had Mike that does the Scoutadelic, and there was just something about it that was so charming, and he's been doing it for like 10 years, and I would encourage anybody that's listening to this, once we finished on this today, is go back and find that one, that episode 6. And he's over in England and Yorkshire, and he's traveling. He's gone to various places, including Kenya, and everywhere he goes, he runs into people who say, "Oh, you're the Scoutadelic guy." I mean, he'll be in an airport or something, and people know him. But it's interesting. Right at the end, we were the three of us, Elliott, me, and Mike, were talking, and we all agree. Why are we doing this? And we're doing it to encourage and support scouting, because we all of us agree, and I think all of you that listen will agree, that the scouting programs are provide valuable guidance and life experiences to young people who desperately need it. Um, I don't mean to go on too long, Elliot.
Well, I wanted to say, with that being said, if there's others, people who are listening right now, and you want to sit with us and talk about these things with us, I'd encourage you to send us an email or leave a comment on this video, or I don't know, get in contact. You can go on Walker's website. You can walkerchandler.com. You can hit contact there. That'll take you straight there, or email walker@walkerchandler.com. You can email me at elliot@sidewalkchalkstudios.com if you want, or you can message us on Facebook or Instagram. There's so many ways to contact us. So get in touch. And if you want to be on one of these videos with us, we'd love to talk about it. Also, if you're a representative of Trail Life, I'd love to talk to you too.
That's right. We had a friend of mine named Michelle Bard was on,
Mhm.
and she was very active in Girl Scouts of America, and we're trying to be supportive of outdoor moral uh, things like that scouting and Girl Scouts and trail life and 4-H even that that help people, help young people become the kind of productive and secure adults that the world needs. I was going to say also, I decided I'd put my books up here. I've written a bunch of books, and you can see that on my website if you want to. Just stuff that I've done. This one right here, this is just a sample book, but that's my younger son. We were dressed up one day like Confederate soldiers and riding horses at a big reenactment. And so that picture of him is taken down at Radium Springs, and that's the name of the novel. It's a big thick novel.
That's
But
really
you
cool.
might enjoy it. And in my writings, every now and then I'll talk about scouts. For example, one of the characters in the book becomes an intelligence officer for the Army during World War II, and he's very young, but he says that the coin that they want is trustworthy. They know, in other words, they have to trust that even though he's young, he's been a scout, and and they recognize that he has those scout qualities that make him a good junior officer and a good intelligence officer, but mainly it's the coin of trust. So enough of that.
Well, no, there's another thing about there's trail life, there's the Girl Scouts, and I just read about one today called Campfire USA. Have you heard about that before?
I haven't.
Okay. It looks to be very similar to the scouting program in just about every way. Community and connection matter now more than ever. Through hands-on interactive programs, youth build their relationship with self and others. Peer-to-peer engagement. But you should check it out, Walker. You might like to know about that. You find it at campfire.org.
Or
I would like to speak to a representative from that organization as well.
that
So
would be great.
yeah.
That for years there was there was a thing called the Royal Rangers that
Mm,
that was the Baptist church. The
mhm.
Baptist church, I think, felt a little uncomfortable with the scouts being, what's the word, ecumenical. I don't know. There's a word meaning that it wasn't uh, it wasn't theologically
Mhm. Acceptable.
exclusive. And of course, scouts. We have scouts all over the world that are of different religious faiths, and our Mike of Scoutadelic even talked about those with little or no faith
Mhm.
were nevertheless recognize the values of scouting, and of course the fact that they maybe don't have a lot of religious faith, they still have faith in human beings, and they want and in a moral system. And
Mhm.
that's one of the things that I think parents and all of us need to remember is that at base, scouting teaches morality, trustworthy, loyal, helpful, all those kind of things that are constantly being repeated in the Scout law and the Scout oath, and in the similar oaths and rules that similar organizations have. But it beats the heck out of um, the messages that can be gotten through the Hollywood movies,
Mhm.
and that and I mean the new Hollywood movies, not the old ones. A lot of the old ones had great morality that they
Yeah.
taught, but some of the new ones are just they're following the winds of fashion, and that's not exactly a comfortable thing for any group or any person to do.
Mhm.
All right. Well,
Well,
what about it, Elliot? Are we going to talk about anything else? I was going to point out other things I got on. I decided I'd have things behind me here. See, like over
give us a
here.
tour.
Uh,
Yeah.
well, over here, uh, right here is that thing with a cross on it
Mhm.
is a what we call the God and Country Award, which took a year to earn when I was a scout, and it was the leader was the Presbyterian minister of the church that sponsored my troop, 212 up in Atlanta. And so anyway, and so those come in different formats for different sects, different denominations, and different religions for that matter. Now there's a small Order of the Arrow thing that hangs from the pocket. I don't need to bring these out. You don't need to see them. And people who are just listening on Spotify obviously aren't going to see these things. So we have to kind of give a verbal description. It's just a little ribbon that hangs down and it has a little silver arrow at the end of it. And the Order of the Arrow is a kind of like a service organization within the Scouts that's based on, that has a strong Native American background to it. And we used to we'd have ceremonies in it that were Native American type ceremonies, and some beautiful language that was done, and it was a service organization. Now, there's my card from when I got Eagle Scout, and I got it right before I turned 13, or I was just 13 at the time, and it wasn't that easy to get, but I wanted it so much. Now I've got a little ceramic elephant there that an old girlfriend made, but I always liked it because it had good character. And above that's a first class badge from Sweden right there. I've been I've been to Sweden some, and then I got this little scout statue here for being a junior assistant scoutmaster when I was like 17.
Wow.
And there's my Eagle badge.
Wow.
So everybody's proud of being Eagle, but Baden-Powell says the important thing is to be a first class scout and a first class citizen. And then here I have a certificate. I've gone to the U.S. Supreme Court and argued only one time up there in 1997.
But you won.
But I won, yes.
That's a big deal. That's pretty cool.
That's a big deal. And then there's
a silver beaver.
Yeah, and here's a silver beaver award, and they have the Scouts here. I think in England, Mike said it was a wolf, but anyway, here we have silver beaver, and that means the busy beaver. And then this is something that was given to a foundation. There's a foundation that my father started, and it was generous to the local council, and so this was given to him. And this scout thing over here is a district award of merit, which is one of those things that are given to people who basically are helping outside their troop to try to have their district work better. But anyway, so those are just some things that I thought we'd talk about in this evening when our guest was not here.
That Silver Beaver Award is pretty special. You know, our previous guest, Trisha Bethel,
yes,
is going to receive the Silver Beaver Award on March 26th of this month. And so we're looking forward to that as well. That's a really cool thing. Another thing that is fun to add is the last recipient of the Silver Beaver from Tussahaw District was my father back in 2017.
Oh, that's great.
That's
great. It's great to have family relationships that go on year after year. My younger son, the one that's pictured on the cover of that book I showed, was active in scouting, and he got an Eagle Scout, and then he went to Philmont, and he became a junior assistant scoutmaster, or an assistant scoutmaster rather, of the troop that he had grown up in. And so he was and then that foundation helped contribute something down at Camp Thunder, and there's a plaque down there that talks about how my father and talked about Alex, and then I thought that the great thing on that plaque is it says a scout is thrifty. I mean, all these other virtues are talked about, but you know, it says he works hard, wastes nothing, and makes the best use of his opportunities. He saves his money so he can pay his own way, be generous to those in need, and helpful toward worthy objects. And I think that's the kind of thing that we want children to understand, that money is a an energy, and it shouldn't be wasted. It should be earned, saved, and used in proper ways and not just wasted. So that's yet another one of the virtues that keeps resurfacing week by week among scouts.
Oh yeah, and among everybody, I'd say.
No, it's no. Go to a casino sometime, and I don't think
Oh
you're going to see people being thrifty.
no, no, I just meant money. I just meant money in general.
No, people need to be thrifty.
Oh
I'll
yeah,
agree with that. They need to be, but
absolutely.
gosh, when I was a kid, it was on what I call the penumbra of the Great Depression. And so during the Great Depression, people had to be very careful about not wasting things.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and then I was, I'm of Scottish descent. And boy, you talk about the greatest sin in Scotland is waste. So you don't waste things. And then, I grew up in a culture and a mindset of try not to waste anything. And the most important thing not to waste is time. And because you can maybe get some more money someday, but you're not going to get time back. And so that's where, for example, that trip down to South Georgia to see my aging cousin, I'm so glad that we went because time ended in
Just in
that
time.
sense. Yes, that's right. So if you have somebody that you need to make amends to, or you a person that you haven't, a friend that you haven't talked to in a long time, or a family member that used to do good things for you, send them a note, give them a call. Be a good scout, be a friend to all,
Be
and
thrifty with your time.
be thrifty with your time. That's a pretty good note to end on, isn't it?
I would say so.
Yeah. All right. Well, folks, tune in. Look at some of those back issues, if we can call them back issues, and I think you'll find valuable scout supportive things to talk about. Take home to your units. Go out and create units and support the units and get your institution, whether it be a church or school or whatever, to support scouting.
Yeah, and check out Scoutadelic Mike's Scoutrageous magazine. Thanks for coming to another episode of Aides to Scouting.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Good night.